Okay, hola year 10. So in today's lesson, we're going to be not really going anything new today. We're going to be recapping the vocabulary that we've already done through some reading activities, but also improving our exam skills, okay? So very often reading text will come up, not even in an exam in the future, if you're reading a Spanish article or something, and words come up that you don't know or you've forgotten or you're just in a mind blank and can't remember. So really important reading skills to be able to work that out from panic and just ignore that question because you can't do it, but work out how you could work it out. Okay, so we've got some varying levels of difficulty of reading that we're just focusing on today, just that one skill. Okay, so first of all of the reading activities are in one document, but you can, if you want, put the answers in your book if you prefer. Okay. Before we jump in with the readings then, let's just get our minds into Spanish mode and look at some adjectives that might come up in some of the readings today, and just to recap some ways we can describe technology. So most of these we've done before, so you might feel fine to just do this verbally, match them up, check them, and just write down the ones that you weren't so sure of to make sure you know them for the future. Or if you want to write them all down, you can make a list in your book or wherever you're working. So take the time you need to match these and then unpause when you're ready to check them. Okay, so the first two actually are in line. Barato is cheap and caro is expensive. We were talking about those last week. Cómodo means comfortable. Divertido, fun. Importante, of course, is important. Lento, you might not have known that one means slow. That also comes up in our transport topic. Necesario, necessary. Peligroso, dangerous. We talked a little bit about that last week, but the dangers of online. And the opposite then will be seguro, safe, and rápido is fast. Okay. So make sure you have made a note of at least the ones you did not know or weren't 100% sure of. Okay. Okay. So let's go on to the first reading then. So these are on the Word document that you'll find on the Study Zone page. So this first reading is probably the simplest of the three that we're going to do in terms of vocabulary. And you're answering all in English. It says, read these posts about social media and answer the questions in English. There are two questions about Emilio, one about Erica, two about Roman, and two about Olivia. So they go in this order here. The questions go in order of the text, okay? So jump straight into it, and then if you're unsure of maybe where to find some of the answers, and pause in a moment, and I'll just give you some clues, okay? Okay, so I'm going to highlight some orange words that are the words in here that are possibly stopping you from understanding the answer to a certain question. There are other answers, so for example, this answer here, this sentence here matches question 2, but everything in here that you need to know about is a cognate, okay? So we don't necessarily need to look up anything there. So I've highlighted the words that if you need to look anything up, those are the ones that you would need to look up. Okay, and we'll go over what they mean in a second, and then we'll go over the answers. Okay, so let's have a look. Why does Emilio use email and Skype? So he says, tengo familia en otros países y por eso me pongo en contacto por Skype y por correo electrónico. So he's talking here about the fact that he has family, and then in otro, other, something, and then something about contacting Skype and email. So if you had to make a logical guess, why would you contact your family by Skype and email? And obviously ignore the fact that we're in a lockdown in a normal context. Well, it's obviously if you couldn't see them, if they lived far away. So in other, so países then you might have translated as places. That's perhaps a logical guess there, but it actually means countries, okay? Number 2, why does he use email more? So he uses Skype menos, less. And then we've got the word conexión, es mala. So connection is bad, it's bad connection, okay? Why does Erica use Instagrams? Coming across to here. My answer just be there. So she prefers, okay, to share photos I'm not writing anything. So colgar means to put up. So if you could put that as well, is fine. But if in an exam, I didn't know what colgar means, but I can see that the answer's here. I prefer something photos, no writing something, then I could guess logically that she prefers putting up photos because we're talking about Instagram. So I forgot my mind blank there. Okay, so if you put putting up photos, that's the correct translation, but sharing would be fine too, because that's the purpose of Instagram, isn't it, to share photos. Okay, then on to Roman. So Roman, what does he often use? So he says utilizo, I use, and then there's something coming here, salas, you might not know that word there, and then salas de chat. And when you have de in between, remember, it means of, because we can't say things like flower pot. We have to say pot of flowers. So it's something of chat. So chat somethings. Well, even if you didn't know salas, logically, the things online that have with chatting are chat rooms, okay? So if you manage to do that without looking up, excellent. You've worked it out in an, we're using exam scale context there. Okay, on to what does he think about Twitter? So he says something, más que Twitter, que encuentro un poco difícil. So we have cognate there, difficult, and hope you know un poco, a bit difficult, okay? What does Olivia spend a lot of time doing? So she says, tengo mi propio blog, paso mucho tiempo escribiendo entradas. So she talks about I have my something blog. So even if you didn't know propio, she says, I have my blog. She's got a blog, okay? And what would you do on that blog, logically? Because escribiendo doesn't look exactly like what a word we might know, but hopefully we can recognize it has the word escribir in it. So if you are writing, and then you might have spotted that they gave you a word here, which is entrada, okay? So she likes writing entries on her blog, or you could have just put writing on her own blog or on a blog or on her blog, it's fine. What does Olivia spend? Sorry, we've done that one. And then number 7, what does her mother say about that? So mi madre dice que, so I'm going to assume that means says, because that's what the question tells me. My mum says that paso, I, because there's an I and I spend too much time on my blog. Paso menos, spend less time with homework. So she spends too much time on it or on the blog and less time doing homework. Okay? Right, so make sure you've corrected your answers. On to the next one then. So this is a lot more detailed. It's on about the same level of vocabulary as this one, but it's obviously a lot more detailed here, okay? Everything goes in order of the text, except for when you come to find 2 disadvantages mentioned, they're not necessarily in the order of the text. They're in a little bit more of a, you've got to find 2 negatives, she points out, about phone use throughout the text, okay? And obviously use logic for that. Before even answering, think of some negatives about using phones that might help you with finding the answers in the text. Let's look at the other questions, because that's always helpful with a massive text like this. When you look at the questions themselves, you already start to identify some things that are going to be in the text because the questions tell you. So in the first paragraph, find 3 adjectives Maria uses to describe her phone. So in the first paragraph, it's going to tell me other details. I can see her name and things, but I don't need to know any of that. Just find 3 adjectives that she uses to describe her phone. Then name 6 activities that Maria uses her phone for. That might imply to me that there are more than 6, but it's going to be coming in the next paragraph, my assumption is, because as I skim read, I can see lots of things you would use a phone for. 3 applications that Maria's iPhone 11 has. So I can see some names standing out here in this section. 2 disadvantages. Again, I'm going to use logic there, and as I skim read to find the other information, hopefully I will start to recognize any negatives. And then finally, how do you say in Spanish, I can't live without my mobile? This one again is not in order of the text, okay? You're going to need to have a little look for that. Think about, we did the verb last week, I can, or one can. We were looking at that when we had that grid where you had to highlight the right one. And then I think we did without as well, but if not, you'll see it in there, that we've done the verb to live when we were talking about where we live, and obviously then my mobile. So you might be able to work it out from by yourself anyway, but see if you can find it in the text, okay? So take the time that you need, and then if you need some help, work through these with us when I go through the answers. Okay, so question 1 then. In the first paragraph, she says her phone is modern. She talks about her age, having a phone that she's got iPhone 11. She says modern, muy útil, muy caro. So very modern, useful, and expensive. Okay. 6 activities rather. So coming on to the next paragraph, she mentions camera, and later on she says taking photos and videos. So that you could have put that separately as 2 separate ones. That's fine. She can use Bluetooth, access the internet, radio, send emails, send texts. Okay. Then 3 apps. So she talks about video games. She doesn't actually name an app, but that's okay because you'd have video games as an app. Okay. She talks about iTunes and Facebook. She mentions them here. And you might have also put that she reads the news or reads books on iBook. Okay. Two disadvantages then. Now, logically, the things that are negative about phones is the cost, the dangers we've mentioned earlier, the word peligroso. Those are 2. And the fact that how much time we can spend on phones. Okay, so if I was skim reading, or as you had been skim reading, you might have noticed some vocabulary in there to do with negatives. So she's saying you can't live without it up here. We've covered that vocabulary there. She talks about liking it, chatting with friends. Soy un poco adicta. So addicted, and uses it. So she's addicted, okay, is one thing there. That's a negative, being addicted to it. She can listen to music, find information, read the news. She says they are a bit boring in her opinion, but that's talking about the news, not her phone. She hasn't said her phone is boring. Read books. Mobiles are a very important technology, useful, practical, interesting, quick. So there's some positives. However, and there we are. She's got the however there. Sin embargo is a clue that something negative is coming. However, I think it's very expensive. Okay. And then normalmente, she talks then just about how much money she spends per week on her phone, calling friends and texts and so on. So did you find I can't live without my mobile? If you haven't, I'll give you a clue. It's in the first paragraph. Pause the video, see if you can find it. If not, continue and check your answer here. So the answer is no puedo vivir sin mi móvil. Okay, I cannot live without my mobile. Maybe some of you feel the same way. Okay, on to the last reading that is compulsory here today. And I'm gonna put up some extension task, and you are doing some reading and translation type activity when you do your space retrieval with self and relationships. This one looks like it would be the easiest out of all 3 that we've done. It looks the easiest because it's the simplest. Okay, it says your Spanish friend, as in there's not big long paragraphs. Your Spanish friend Bruno has answered this magazine questionnaire about mobile technology. Look at what Bruno has circled. What does he say about issues 1 to 5 below? And answer in English. So the 1 to 5 is here on this screen, but it's below the text on your sheet. So straight away, these tell me what these 5 questions are about. Connecting to the internet, shopping on his mobile, access to a mobile or tablet, battery life, and losing connection. So in a way, I don't even need to read the questions because I've been told here what it's about. So let's not waste time in an exam and reading things that we don't necessarily need to work out, okay? Then he has circled his answers. So again, all the text is asking you to do is say, what does he say about issues 1 to 5? So even though A says cada 2 días and C says raramente, I don't need to know what those mean because he chose B, okay? So all you're working out is what B here says, this sentence C, this sentence A, this sentence C, and this sentence B says. So that's all you need to work out. So in a way, it seems simple. However, this is the most difficult vocabulary compared to the others that we've seen. It's not necessarily any vocabulary that we've covered in the technology topic specifically. It's actually a little bit more random or related to several different topics, okay, some of it. So see how you do first of all, and just making notes in English about what you think he's saying about each of these. And then once you're stuck, don't look up anything yet. Come back to the video for a few tips and we'll look through this, okay? Okay, so number one, if we need a bit of help, connecting to the internet. So he says, tantas veces que ni lo sé. So this is where might be helpful to look at some of the others to compare, because the question is asking con qué frecuencia, how, with what frequency is he connecting to the internet? So how often? That gives me a little bit of a clue, okay? We have done veces before when we did sports and we were talking about how often you do something. We had like una vez a la semana, dos veces, and so on. So you might be able to work out tantas veces, but then ni lo sé, the que ni lo sé is possibly a little bit more difficult, okay? No sé means I don't know. Okay, so I'll just give you that clue and think back to the sport topic. You could compare to that. This one is every day. This one is rarely. Doesn't necessarily mean it's in between. But it's not being, he hasn't given, it's not so specified. Okay. Right, shopping on his mobile. So, haces compras, do you do shopping on your phone? There's an obvious no there. No tengo tarjeta de crédito. This is possibly one of the easier ones. You've got crédito. I don't have something, and then credit. Okay. So what do you think he's saying there about not having credit something? Okay. Okay, question 3 then. So access to a mobile or a tablet. So if I wanted a bit more detail to help me with this, good luck here. ¿Qué pasa si no tienes when not having access? So we've got either me preocupa mucho, no me importa, me fastidia un poco. So these ones here are also quite difficult and not necessarily going to help you with A. So we're just going to concentrate on A. Me preocupa mucho. Not a phrase I think we've covered before. So if you came across in this in an exam, looking at it, you can see it looks a bit like preoccupy. Okay, if you're preoccupying yourself, if you're preoccupying yourself with something, you're a bit preoccupied with it, it's what's consuming you and consuming your thoughts. Okay, that might give you a clue about how he's feeling if he doesn't have a tablet or phone access. Okay. Question 4, battery life. So it talks about you're on a bus, 1% battery. ¿Cómo te sientes? You might know ¿cómo te sientes, but talking about, you know, his situation. If he's on a bus and he's only got 1% battery, okay? He says, me fastidia muchísimo. You would not know this in an exam. It's too difficult to work out, okay? If you then looked at the others, made that igual, it's equal to me. We've looked at that before, a long time ago in our self-relationships topic, saying I don't care about it, it's equal to me. A bit decepcionado, so it's a bit something, so you're not bothered, you're a bit something, so that I assume is a little bit higher up. Or me fastidia muchísimo, so it's not just mucho, it's not just a lot, but a real lot. So he's obviously, it's quite a strong feeling. So see if you can guess a strong feeling. If somebody's got only 1% battery life, how would they be feeling? They're feeling really thingy about it, okay? And then finally, losing connection, a la red, to the internet. So he says, corro a otro sitio para buscar señal. So there's not many cognates here. We have done corro in the healthy living topic. So see if you can remember that verb. Corro, I something and other something. And then señal. What does señal look or sound a bit like, rather, in English? Señal. If you're talking about the internet and having a phone and being connected to the internet, okay, and not having a señal. See if that can give you a clue. Okay, when you're ready, then let's see how you did. It is a tricky one. There's a lot of what we call colloquial language in this, very sort of young people talk, or like not things you would see in a formal situation. Okay. Okay, so number 1 means literally so many times que ni lo sé, that I don't even know. Okay, so if you got close to that, well done, that's tricky. Number 2, nope, he doesn't have a credit card, so hopefully that one was a bit clearer. 3, he worries a lot. If you're preoccupied by something, you are worried by it. So he worries a lot, okay? It annoys him a lot. Excellent if you managed to work that out. That was a really difficult one. You might have put like it gets on his nerves a lot, or you might have thought maybe that was the one about worries a lot. That was a tricky one, okay? And then number 5, he runs. So corro is I run to another place, a otro sitio, to look for a signal, para buscar señales. Well done if you worked out the señal, the signal there, okay? Fantastico. Okay, so well done, year 10. If you have finished all those quite quickly, then let me know, and I will, once you've done the other activities I've set today, and I'll set you a slightly more detailed reading task. So excellent if you've managed to work through all that vocabulary there. Muy bien.